G'day folks, Connor here from CW's Tech Reviews, back with another video, and today we're doing a review on the Oppo Reno 5G. It's been out for a little while, but hey, it's a great phone and we're going to look at its capabilities, so let's just get stuck straight into the video. Now, if you know me, you know I love Oppo phones. I just do. I think they offer some great value, as I think they have done with the whole Reno range of phones. I mean, they've really pushed the limits across all price points for the Reno. Now, I know this phone has been out for a few months. You know, it was released mid to late last year. I mean, if we look at some of the specs here, you're looking at a Snapdragon 855 5G. I mean, even the iPhone hasn't been coming out with 5G phones last year, but Oppo did. It pushed the boundaries, and I tested the Telstra network with the Oppo Reno 5G. Results for that will be coming up shortly. But there's so many more specs to talk about, and if you just want to pause the screen in a minute, you'll see all the specs. We're looking at 6.6-inch AMOLED display, pretty much bezel-less, the pop-up motorized camera for the selfie camera. You're talking 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. But what does all that add up to in day-to-day use? Doesn't really matter, doesn't make a difference. And does the Oppo Reno 5G perform in typical day-to-day usage? One thing's for certain, it looks bloody good, the box looks good, the phone looks good, and so when I talk about how good it all looks, it leads me into the build and the design of this device. Now, you're talking Gorilla Glass 6 on the front and Gorilla Glass 5 on the back, so no shortage of protection there, and it's sporting aluminium framing around the whole outside. It is definitely sleek, smooth and smart looking. The back has some obvious Oppo branding, and I'm not really too fussed about it. I don't think it looks bad. If anything, it looks good. It's a fingerprint magnet though. We've got the dot on the back here, and that just keeps the camera just a little bit off the surface when you put it down. I think it's a nice touch. And the display really does look good. Actually, in bright sunlight though, it was a little lackluster, so it's something that could be improved on there. I did struggle with it. And as you can see, I took it to a beautiful island off Brisbane called Cuchimudlo Island. I went there for the day and tested it out. Tested out the camera and the video and had a lot of fun with it. It has a fingerprint scanner in the display that is super fast. Has facial recognition that works with the pop-up camera, which isn't the fastest because you do have to wait for the camera to come up and down. But it is very accurate and very quick once it recognizes my face. And that pop-up camera is really good fun to begin with, and it's a novelty, but it soon just becomes a part of the device and you don't notice it. It's not bad nor good, it just is what it is. So you've got all that hardware on the outside and it looks and feels really good. But then you've got the software. Now, the Oppo Reno 5G is currently still on Android 9 or Android Pie as we know it, and is running ColorOS version 6. Now, with the Snapdragon 855 and 8 gigs of RAM, that software flies. There is no issues with that software for me. From a performance perspective, it works really well. And I think the more that someone uses the Oppo software, the more familiar they'll get with it, and it'll be really nice and enjoyable experience for the everyday user. There's only one thing that I struggle with. I want a phone that I can swipe down to see my notifications. And I can't with this. It should be there. It's a basic gesture and one that I rely on 50 plus times a day with my other devices. It's a small issue. But the Oppo software, I think, is definitely miles away from where it used to be. It is definitely a mature software these days, and it's only going to get better and better. Alright, let's talk about the performance of the Reno 5G. Man, this thing flies. I can't trip it up. I cannot trip it up, and I think that's the Snapdragon 855, 8 gigs of RAM, and ColorOS software. This thing just flies along. I've not once thought, gee, this is taking a bit to load. And I do experience that a little bit here and there with my Galaxy Note 9. You know, like most phones have a point where you go, oh, this is getting frustrating with certain apps or features. I have not had that from a performance perspective on the Oppo Reno 5G. Scrolling is fast. Applications load quickly. I was playing PUBG on full graphics settings, not one stutter the whole time. I have not had a performance issue, whether I'm gaming, watching media, day-to-day multitasking, using the camera, it just doesn't skip a beat. Now, I remember when 4G first came out and we were all like, who needs it? Who needs to download that quickly? And now it's actually considered slow, and I'll vouch for that any day of the week. And I have been the same with 5G. I'm like, who needs that much speed? I can't watch things as quick as they can download, but it's nice to have, and it downloads real quick. And here's some examples here when you're looking at Ookla, speed test by Ookla. The first test I did on 5G, I got a download speed of 465 megabits per second and an upload speed of 36. So upload isn't really the fastest. And then it was pretty consistent between 296 and 465 was my download speed, and uploads were between 16 and 45 megabits per second. On 4G with Vodafone, the highest download speed I could get was 111 megabits per second. And my upload speeds on Vodafone was around 28 to 30 megabits per second. The ping on this, which is how quick that data is transferred, was 19 and the jitter was 48. For a ping, 16 is considered super fast and this is 19. And the jitter is how consistent your connection is, was 48, which is about average. So across those download speeds with that ping and that jitter, you've got some really good connections there and everything is going to be fast. You will notice a difference. 5G is the future. All right, let's talk about the camera. So on the back, we've got 148 megapixel camera. It's called a wide angle. It's pretty standard telephoto zoom. Yeah, works fine. Then we have a 13 megapixel periscopic lens, they've called it. And then they have an 8 megapixel ultra wide. The difference you can get in picture is quite amazing. And I think you've got from a 16 to 160 millimeter equivalent focal length. That's a wide range. And so for someone who's into photography, you might have 3 different lenses or 2 different lenses to cover that range. And here it is all built into your phone that you can take with you. Now, to be fair, if you want to use this 6x and 10x zoom properly, you're going to need a tripod. But that's pretty much the same with any camera. Once you get into those long zooms, you want a good steady shot, you're going to need a tripod. And even more so with a small phone like this, it's not a detachable lens, you're going to need a tripod. But if you do stabilize it on a tripod, you can get a nice clear image, just like you can see in these photos. So here's a wide angle example and a zoomed in example of the same photo. And you can really see, I mean, you can't even make out in the wide angle what you're looking at. And then you zoom in 10x zoom, and it's like, holy crap, this thing really can zoom in far. So use a tripod for night mode and for your ultra zooms, and you'll get some really nice shots. And then overall for your general photography, you're gonna get some good photos as well. And as usual, especially in daylight, you're gonna get some really nice photos. Oppo tends to lean towards, that beautification side of things with their cameras and making people look, trying to beautify people. And I'm not really into that, obviously. I mean, I look good enough as it is. I think the photo does okay in landscapes, okay in macro, okay in low light. And here's some examples of all the photos. It's up there, it's competing, and it's not a bad camera. If you get this phone for the 5G, I think you're going to be happy with the camera. If you get this phone for the Snapdragon 855 and the 8 gigs of RAM, you're going to be happy with it, and you're not going to be disappointed with the camera. It's just not the best camera on the market, but it's definitely up there. I think you get some good dynamic range. So here's some shots where you can see indoors and outdoors, bright light and low light, and I think you can see pretty evenly across both situations in the one photo. Front-facing camera, again, I think it's geared up to that whole beauty mode and beautification of, people. So I turn all the beauty settings off. That is an agenda within the Oppo software, is to beautify the shots. Some people love that. Not judging, not judging. Then you've got 4K, and it's 4K 60 frames per second. It's not a bad image. It definitely does look a little bit digitized, but that is what you get with these sorts of cameras. The slow motion, if you do use the slow motion settings, it is variable frame rate, so not the best quality slow motion. I'd rather shoot in 4K 60 than slow it down in post, but not everyone has that ability to do that. So the slow motion function within the camera will work just fine, and here's some examples of it. I think it's going to be, you'll enjoy playing with it, and you can get some good video with it. And I don't think your everyday consumer needs much more these days than a point and shoot phone for their video and their camera work. Battery. 2-day battery life. I shit you not, you get 2 days out of it. I gamed a lot on it. I took a lot of photos with it. I tested it a lot, and I never ran out of battery in 1 day, ever. It just kept going. And when I got to the point of having to charge it, within 1 hour, say from 20% to full, maybe took an hour and 20 minutes using the VOOC charging, which I think is great. It's all the rave. I think more people need to get on board with this, or at least copy it, because it is really good. Definitely VOOC charging, and the battery management in the software is really good as well. Full day of shooting video, and still lasted me another day after that as well. Absolutely flogging it. Social media all day, every day. YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, all that stuff. I watch it all. I consume all my content through my phones. I rarely watch TV, and the Reno 5G lasted me 2 days. If you want that 5G and battery life is important to you, then this is the phone for you. No doubt about it. So the key features for the Oppo Reno 5G. The key features for me are, obviously, the 5G. It's important. It's why they have called it the Reno 5G. It's a standout. The camera, I think, is a good all-round camera. I think there's no fuss with it. It will get the job done and you won't be disappointed. The performance, as I said, that Snapdragon 855 and 8 gigs of RAM, it just blitzes. And I've just got to give it to Oppo for pushing the limits. You've got the in-screen fingerprint scanner, you've got the pop-up camera, you've got 5G. I mean, Oppo's just pushing the boundaries. So that's a key feature for me, is how the brand, the company, likes to push the limits and bring things to the consumer first before a lot of other companies dare to. So kudos there. And then areas for improvement. The design is one area for improvement. It's hard to get IP68 with a mechanical camera coming in and out. The display, like I said, it's a little bit lackluster. I mean, 360 something PPI or whatever it is, 300 and something. It's not the highest, could be better. And I'm stuck with no headphone jack. So the Oppo Reno 5G is a really good phone. It's not the best at everything, but it is the best at some things and really good at other things. I actually work with someone who completely passed up on the Samsungs, Apples and Google Pixels of the world so that they could get the Oppo Reno 5G. And they are 100% happy with it. Just like I think you would be if you did buy it. So I don't think there's going to be any disappointment with this. It's just people are going to struggle because they want to be in with the bigger brands. So that leaves me no real choice but to recommend this as a phone that you can buy.